Dear boys, survivors of the Holocaust, who spent some time in the ghetto Terezin, whether during the war or towards its end. Dear relatives and friends, my name is Jan Rubinek and I am the director of Terezin Memorial. I'm also the grandson of Eva Polakova, the Jewish girl from the town of Luže in eastern Bohemia, born in 1929. She spent 1 year in the ghetto Terezin. Then, along with her family, she was deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau extermination camp to be liberated by Soviet troops during the Death March in central Poland in January 1945. You are now at the Jewish cemetery of Ghetto Terezin, which existed on these grounds since November 1941 until May 1945. You stand behind the crematorium, which operated since autumn 1942 and until 1945. More than 30,000 Jewish victims of Nazi atrocities were cremated here. Their ashes were then placed in a nearby columbarium till autumn 1944, and then, in order to efface traces of death, Nazis decided to pour it into nearby river Ohře. By the end of the war, as frontier approached, Nazis still wanted to cowardly keep the prisoners as long as possible. And because this area was controlled by the Nazi army till very end of the war, the so-called evacuation transports from deserted concentration camps in Germany and Poland started to arrive since April 20, 1945. And then thousands of ill, weak, exhausted and skinny human skeletons flowed into Terezin either by train or by foot. Most of the European continent was already liberated from the awful tyranny. But for Terezin, deportees, perhaps the worst part was about to begin. The outbreak of typhus. Many prisoners died here even after the liberation, despite the efficient humanitarian aid offered by and organized by the local authorities and of course by the Red Army, who liberated Terezin in evening hours of May 8, 1945. After having recovered, the survivors tried to make a journey through destroyed Europe back to their home countries, to their homes, and very often occupied by locals, who were mostly reluctant to accept their return. For some time, the repatriates waited for their family members. However, most of their relatives and friends never came back. Their ashes remained in the east, and their dead bodies were buried in mass graves with no names on gravestones. When survivors understood that there was no one to wait for and their future in their home countries was uncertain, they tried to find a new, better place without bitter and sad associations with the past. Many of them made Aliyah to the newly born state of Israel. Some of them settled in the USA, some in Western Europe, including the United Kingdom. You came to the UK to start again. You became respected citizens of a free and democratic country, something that we didn't have here until Velvet Revolution in 1989. You have your own families, and some of you grandchildren and even great-grandchildren. Every one of you has their personal touching story. And here you are, 74 years after the liberation, reunited with your old comrades from the wartime and with your relatives. I will be glad to listen to your personal stories later. You will have a chance to come to Terezin next year to participate in a similar event. It will be 75 years since Terezin liberation. You are always welcome either to organize your own assembly or to join our events. For instance, on each third Sunday of May, this year it will be next Sunday, we always organize a national remembrance ceremony at the National Cemetery near the small fortress. Thousands of citizens participate on this event along with politicians and ambassadors of many countries, ambassador of the United Kingdom included. Friends, thank you very much for your attention. I truly hope the weather will not let us down, but we appreciate some rain. Thank you very much.